Well, let's get this started. You've had, I guess, an interesting adventure the last 3, 4, 5 years or so. How
Yeah.
did that all start?
Okay, so my experience with the church leaving, you mean?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um, it was in 2010. So this really quick synopsis. A good friend asked me about polygamy, and in the Mormon Church, it's a little bit of a taboo subject, but it's kind of just we don't do it anymore. It's not a big deal, It's kind of talked about that way. But I don't remember when, probably when I was 18 or 19, I had asked that same question to somebody, and they had told me. Joseph Smith didn't want to do it. He was forced to by God, and God sent an angel to cut his head off with a sword,
Sorry. Yeah. Yep.
And
Yep. Yep.
at the time, I think I was like, okay, well, yeah, I guess I would do the same. But
Sure.
then
No,
when,
dude, I was raised Mormon, man. I know exactly. I went with it. Hell yeah.
yeah, so you just do it, and then I was trying to convey that to him in some form or fashion, but man, when I was running it through my head, it just sounded so culty that I didn't know how to quite portray it without sounding just completely ridiculous. So I told him something, but
The
anyway,
one
that's
for
what
me,
started it.
all right, I'll let you keep going. But the one for me growing up wasn't the polygamy. I was like, that makes sense to me. I would like to hang out with a bunch of girls or whatever. But the one for me was the that blacks didn't receive the priesthood until like the 70s. I was like,
Yeah,
that is
79.
weird to me. And
Yeah.
that always stuck with me. And then the older I got, it just became more and more problematic. But anyway,
Yeah.
let's continue down your path.
Yeah. So I just started looking into it. And that thing that you mentioned, the racial issues within the church. So it just started popping up a whole bunch of these things that I had kind of just not dealt with directly. Uh, you know, Joseph Smith treasure digging, the places in Mormonism, and some of the names, Moroni and Gomorrah are actually real places, island chain off the coast of Africa, where this Captain Kidd, this pirate that Joseph Smith was you know aware of and loved and kind of read about. It was just too coincidental to me, and that's what kind of those things started to really crop up and become big issues. The
And
whole
you
narrative.
discovered that early on in your questioning of the church?
Yeah, in 2010, I found that out. So the first six
Interesting.
months,
Okay.
I think I
Okay.
found most of those types of
And
things out.
this is after your mission and all that, right?
Yeah, I'm married. I think I'm 30 years old. Um, yeah, just still going to church, still very active. Have a calling, did all those things, but
Right on, yeah.
started finding new things out. So anyway, I got to a point where I just stopped believing traditionally, and it was just a very different narrative than what I had been raised on and taught, and the church had kind of like betrayed me, I felt like, and the rest of the membership, and kind of keeping these things hidden and secret.
Sure. Sure. Okay. Well, so that started your questioning, and then I'm assuming you were afraid of your standing with the church, you were afraid of your family, your job, like
Yep.
all of that. So how did that transitionary period of, like, I guess, coming out, how did that transpire?
So that took, 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
I told Ashley, your sister, my wife, about it. Like I think it was probably I mentioned a few things to her during the first 6 months, and then 2 years later, I just told her I don't think the church is true. I I don't think it's what we were always taught, but I'm gonna just keep going for you. And
Yeah, okay, I totally agree with that.
yeah, and so I did that, I didn't talk about it anymore with her. I tried to keep reading books that supported a nuanced perspective, and there's new books out there within Mormonism that try and do this. It's kind of a progressive Mormonism, but you
Yeah,
can't really
totally.
be open about it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
widely accepted or even condoned, and I think it could get you kicked out, honestly, if you had the right leader. But anyway, it just got to a point where I just started seeing other people leave, and I saw how they were treated and just backstabbed and
Yeah.
shunned within the organization, and
Yeah.
I just
Same
decided I
with me
couldn't
when
be a part.
I felt very well weird when I left as well.
Yeah, it's part of the way they keep people in is they take away their dignity if you leave, and that's the true sign of a cult. And so
Yeah.
that's where I decided it was just time for me to be honest with everybody. And so I told, the bishop, the leader of the church in my area, and just the backlash I received from him and other individuals has just been really telling about the organization itself. But anyway,
Okay.
my wife and kids have now, joined me, and we have a healthy relationship now because of it.
That's cool. That's cool. And how long? So you were off board for a while. How long was it until they were off board with you?
Took about a year, I think,
Okay.
for them to do
Uh,
enough of their research and get familiar with the issues to the point where they could be like, yeah, this was definitely not the way I was raised.
yeah.
This is
Were
a
their
totally different
sticking
story.
point? Oh, yeah, yeah. Were their sticking points different than your sticking points?
There was definitely a ton of overlap. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, for example, the Book of Mormon, DNA, polygamy, all these things that are just so destroy. I mean, they would destroy the church if people knew about them, but they don't talk about it openly. And so
Right.
those things just adding up, had a cumulative effect to destroying faith and this kind of awakening, my wife.
All right. Let's talk about that nuance
Yeah.
of you're stuck, you have a family, extended family, friends, you have a whole society, built-in babysitting,
Yeah.
food storage and,
Amen.
a social program and stuff to do and, you know, good
Yep.
people. There is plenty of good people. So like
Yep.
how do you draw the line? Where does it make it worth it to leave? Like if you're all about 100% purity and honesty to yourself, then
Yep.
and that's the most important thing, then yeah, then you leave the church.
Yeah.
But what if you feel stuck, or what if you like it? Then where do you draw that line?
I don't know, man. Everyone's different. You talk to people who have these new progressive views, and that's exactly why they stay in, is culturally and just from a tribal perspective. As humans, we like to belong. And so when
Absolutely.
I have well, I had three friends. I don't really consider them friends anymore, but when I, left, they approached me and said, "Yeah, we don't believe either, but we just go for other reasons."
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Wow,
and I
I've
guess
never had anyone say that to me.
yeah,
Are
well,
they
they're
still
like,
active?
yeah, they're very
They're,
aggressive
okay. Okay. No, that's
outside of the
cool.
church,
That's cool.
with their animosity. Like they mock it and they ridicule it to a point where it's even uncomfortable for me, but then they go and they attend and they take their families. And for me, that's just a loss of authenticity that I can't live a life like that. And so I don't even like to be around them anymore because I
Okay.
just I just think it's extremely hypocritical. And I don't want to raise my kids like that. That's lying to my children. It's one thing to believe in Santa Claus, quite another to base a whole lifestyle on a religion that you don't believe in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the law of unintended consequences, kind of like
Exactly.
I don't know. Like I'm happier that I left the church, but I also don't regret growing up in the church just because I am who I am. I love who I
Yep.
am.
Yeah.
And I learned so many things, dealing with
Yep.
strict rules or how to have fake manners or how to discuss philosophy or just all the cool friends that you're a part of or just like you were introduced to a lot of people that were just like weird, like that you wouldn't see
Yeah.
in
No,
like general
totally.
public. And it's like those are like important, and like part of growing up. I mean, I wasn't
Totally.
raised non-Mormon, so I'm sure non-Mormon kids have interesting stuff as well. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't feel bad that I was raised that way. I feel. I mean, do you feel like people can derive benefits from it, just not
Oh
for
yeah.
you? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, I think you can. There's still a lot of Mormonism, in my life that I cherish those experiences, especially things like, scouting and, water skiing, mountain climbing, mountain biking, the camaraderie that exists within those groups. I think that's hugely beneficial, especially as growing up. It takes a village to raise a kid, and I had
Absolutely.
great role models. So I don't fault it for that. I really think they're doing the best they can. 80 to 90% of that church is just great, but
I
there's
agree.
another toxic, ultra conservative subculture that exists, white supremacy and things like that. And so I don't know, at some point you just got to figure out what's the right thing for you. If you believe it, then
Yeah.
it's a great place. But then there's also, as we would mention prior to this, is the guilt and shame associated with things that are just normal with growing up and normal behaviors that are just so vilified within that organization that I think it's unhealthy and unrealistic. And so my kids aren't going to have to deal with that.
Good. That's important. All right. Let's see. How do you